There is value in fighting with all your strength, and being able to stand atop a mountain is just the byproduct of that. Welcome to the megastructure, or well, Lorn's megastructure. Not gonna lie, video is probably like 3 months late, but this year started off with my finals, so I had no time to do anything, but I'm here now. I'm doing the best I can. To say the least, I am not at all a speedrunner, nor do I want to be one in the near future, so do take my opinions on the game itself with a grain of salt. But if I were to give it away in the shortest answer possible before I actually yap for who knows how long, I felt like the game was challenging in a real good way, especially the ending. I am not good at under pressure CSGO surfing. If I were to summarize it all before I were to get into the meat of it, I'd say that the climbing felt great, amazing even. The only thing missing is a button to play with the climbing pick, just like you would in parkour maps. Also, the atmosphere is amazing, the barrenness, the machine it all is, literally out of this world. Going from what was, well, paradise, if you can call it that, into the literal circles of hell is not something I was expecting from a story-driven atmospheric climbing game. Especially since climbing usually means going up something, yet we kept going further down into the well, the abyss. To say that the game probably has some biblical and Lovecraftian inspiration is nothing, cause it totally does. I should talk a little bit about the story, I suppose, since I'm here. Not like it's a long explanation either way, as it is quite simple. It's Dante's Inferno. The story is as Lovecraftian as it can get, a man's curiosity leading him to the depths, the unknown, to reach out to the truth. God, how many references am I gonna make today? As Adam gave away his immortality, so did our player character whose name I don't know. Wait, does he even have a name? Apparently, the character is known just as the android, so yeah. That's something. Makes sense, actually. Anyhow, it gave up on the good life, all for the sake of finding a way out of these chains. That feeling of being trapped. At one point, the protagonist is found by a bird-shaped being and decides onto following it into the abyss, all for our curiosity, for a way out of this godforsaken place. After all, there is no other way out. We have been stuck here for 253 years, and our power core is expiring. We have no way back. This is the start of the game, the level that was also played in the demo, I believe, the wall. We descend into a hole and make our way around the wall, following the bird and finally arriving at a window that connects us to a living ecosystem. But sadly, it's not our way out. So we keep going on until we find a hole. And we do the only thing we know. We keep on going deeper. Next, we arrive in the failed biome. After falling all the way down, we somehow survive and are repaired by a service robot who is stationed at the camp along with another member of the team that, well, has been infected by the poisonous air. They ask us to go looking for a mold flower to make medicine for the person in exchange for extending the bridge to the waste tunnels, as something strange went that way. We, of course, oblige, and after a really long trek to find the flower and then to bring it back, we take one last look at the robot and the survivor, hoping maybe they will make it, and go on our merry way. The waste tunnels, it feels like one of those TikToks of the cave divers when they see a miniature crack in the pavement. It's nothing but a big hole we keep going down into until it forms into a cave, where we find others that have been dead for hundreds of years yet still speak to us. As we keep going forward, or well, downwards into the Devil's Hole, we end up having to parkour our way around this black muddy water. Only God knows what's in it. Making our way around the pipes, we keep climbing. We keep diving and we keep going further into what seems to be a cistern, maybe. It starts filling up with the black goop, and we rush to get out. As we do, we go down another hole and end up greeted by what seems to be an entrance to something ancient, guarded by, of course, Cerberus from Ultrakill. We keep going forward until we find the light, and there, we can finally find a glimpse of hope, a city of pure water and light. Here, in the ancient cistern, we mostly just look in awe at what really is inside this megalopolis. Just how big this place is, how old even, that there are even ancient structures untouched for millennia. As we walk around the cistern and take it all in, we once again find one of those beings in front of us, along with a flying saucer, clearly. They had better technology back then. Hell, it all even looked better. As we float along on a boat cursor thing, we can only stare in awe at the sheer size of it all. At one point we end up inside of one of those cisterns where there is ancient art, one that depicts holy figures inside the machine. Everything around them engulfed in black liquid, maybe the same black liquid we had seen before. Clearly, the outside world is tainted. We continue to go along for a bit more until we reach a temple-looking structure with more depictions. One being that of a bright eye at the top, people climbing towards it. The other having the same eye shining a light through the building, sealing a hole. With that in mind, we push forward a set of ruins, following the bird as we did at the start. This is what we said we would do after all. Reaching the end of it all, a waterfall, which we slowly descend. At the bottom, the birds awaits for us, and through a passage, we arrive at the Undercity. Contrary to the other Undercity, this one is far worse. Not only do we have to climb around everything, people are starving and there are no jobs. And to add to it, we're not even dead. This is literally Detroit 2.0. Also, why does this game feel so much like Blame? Damn. I went ahead and never mentioned that to get to this Undercity, we have to fall down yet again. A constant and ever-present theme that we will never get over, that, to be fair, I don't really mind, but I have to have mentioned it again because it's everywhere. But yes, we fall down yet another hole, and from there we have to climb what seems to be the outside of one of those units of the megacity, even though we were still inside. The access to the literal city is still quite far away, but this thing here is one of the big draws aesthetically, and well, vibe-wise, for me, the level, it has to be the street lamp door entrance. It just reminds me of my childhood in a way. God, why do I have to be Eastern European and have melancholy and nostalgia for stuff like this? It literally looks the same now. We go through the door and reach a broken railway. Poor lads don't even have supplies anymore, I bet. From there we make our way forward by walking on pipes and through pipes, until we reach an opening. The Undercity, which is quite well down under and reminds me very much of Blade Runner, but worse, in a way. Not like it can be any worse really, but it is. Here, we finally get to see our first quote-unquote survivors, normal people, those who used to live a decent life until supplies ran out. Some went out to get resources but never came back, attacked by an upper colony. Others survived with trauma. Resources are scarce and fewer is no longer. That is, until we came, until we helped. We keep making our way along until we get asked to go find Grandpa, and so we do. A small trek is all it takes to find a giant library with Grandpa there, who says that he will die in that room, as he can do nothing else for the people. We leave. Our journey has to continue. This was nothing but a small stop. Through more pipes we run, we climb, till we reach the bottom once again. This time, a very dry, very rocky, with lots of sand and possibly a desolate colony. We have reached the foundation, our next level. Here, in this complete 180 from the previous levels, where we had people, water, technology even, we have nothing but the sands of past time. A war that had happened, a civilization that existed, reduced to nothing but dust, ruins. Through rushing sand and canyons we go, only to arrive in desolate, abandoned villages, aqueducts and ruins of a different, more refined age, left in a frozen bubble of time. We continue on following the bird through tar, far, and we keep climbing. A crop harvester. Further we must go, until we reach the cliffs. We find out that this place was a natural biome, rare in the megastructure. Makes sense why a war was waged here. In the distance lies what seems to be a tower, which we, of course, climb. One of the more trickier ones, if I must say. At the top lies a spike, which we drop. It breaks to the well at the bottom of the floor, and we know what we must do. Jeff Hardy would be proud. As we fall and fall, our picks break. We reach Kingsfield, Lemao. Here starts the spiral of, well, me trying to do Storor parkour. I can't dance for shit, so who expects me to be able to do Mario wall jumps? Either way, we finally reach the second to last level, the Sunken City. Surprisingly good. Like I said, we're in Kingsfield. People have no food and water, by the looks of it. Something is wrong here. They're drinking the sludge, after all. We parkour our way up and around the castle in quite cool fashion, and during this, we find weird things like functioning televisions and fountains of beautiful, clear water that people don't approach. Why drink sludge when we have water? We go further, finding strange symbols, religious in nature. Of course it's religious. It always is. Of course the mega structure is controlled by a cult. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. As we reach the top, we find the light, shining in the same shape as the previous symbols. We have reached the end. The burden has stopped here. A terminal full of knowledge we cannot comprehend, and what seems to be a particle accelerator, maybe? It turns on. We have no choice, do we? We go into the light, and on the other side, we reach Dissolution. The pain of my whole run for this game. In this heaven-looking place filled with clearly what seems to be something I'd make myself, or that I'd see in Talos Principle, we parkour our way around what seems to be a pure yet hostile environment. There is beauty in what great civilizations can achieve. We finally get new picks, this time with a grappling hook, and my despair starts. The sand is deadly. I proceed to spend the next 30 minutes trying to do a single parkour move. Then I proceed to do another parkour move for yet another half hour. I am very bad at games, painfully so. What was supposed to be a half-hour first part of the level took me over twice the amount, I believe. I don't know how I coped with it, and I didn't give up, but I did go through with it. Eventually, we succeed and reach a corrupted island in this oasis. No Liam or Noel here, though, thankfully. Welcome to Hell, where the machine god greets us. Our time is running out. We gave up on everything and climbed all the way down to reach this place, but we never faltered. We refused the temptation. We were lured by Lorn to serve a purpose of which we are not aware of. Nothing but a cog in a machine. But we refuse. We run. Welcome to the real last level of Lorn Lure, chased by the eponymous machine god of this megastructure. It wasn't fun to say the least, but the community has so many talented people who can parkour their way around, and then there is me, who, well, had lots of fun. I didn't. God, it was so hard, but finishing it felt so good. But God forbid. There isn't much to say other than that I'm thankful for the checkpoints and that I loved the 0 to 100 turn it took, but it sure was hard for me. We keep running, or well, struggle, and try to find a way out until we actually do. We reach a light. We survive. A being greets us. We have survived. They cheer us on for doing so, but we can never go back home. We can keep on climbing though, we can keep on going forward. We will no longer follow the light. We will make our own way. Great game, what can I say? Maybe I can talk about other things in here though, but it's not like there's much established lore or characters really, if any. Like, for example, let's take the protagonist. They have nothing going on for themselves really, other than where they came from and its objective, along with the loss of their humanity. Nothing but a shell to take us to the story. Nothing bad about that though. As for everyone else, they kind of suffer from the same issue, trapped in the dark in a long forgotten place without supplies, as the train stopped long ago. It's eat or be eaten at this point and not many can survive, or eat to be fair. I don't think they're really much human anymore. We do have quite a few characters that stuck out with me, or I think everyone really. Starting off with the Power Keeper, at least that's what I'll call them. Grandpa, the leader of the Undercity, and to a certain extent the entity, the eagle, the monster, the tempter, Lorn. We also have the old keeper at the end that clearly has seen others go through it. A caretaker of those that come out of their shells. People that resisted the temptation and realized the truth. If I were to try and understand everything that went down in the story, I'd say that this basically is an interpretation of the idea of as above, so below. The verse itself refers to the supposed effect celestial mechanics have upon events here on Earth, which inter means, let's say, the truths about the nature of the cosmos as a whole may be inferred from truths about human nature, and vice versa. Along with the idea that if we are alive, so is the universe, meaning that there is something above us, gods for example. Now, why would the protagonist descend into the depths only for itself at the end, after supposedly escaping the evil, get brought to the bottom and are told that they will have to climb back up to regain what they lost, as many others have done before them? The protagonist is nothing but a part of the machine, a cog. As it was before, so it will be now, and if they want to even try to escape, they will have to play into their so-called fate. Usually, I don't mention aesthetics as a whole thing, but I feel like this one really needed it. The grimy, dingy, futuristic megastructure that the game happens in is incredible, and it sure has some inspirations. At least, I feel like it does. To me, the game screams blame, and not even just that, it also screams Midgard. It also makes perfect sense that a climbing game would take place in such a sci-fi world, when everyone has done climbing the mountains. Why not just turn to climbing a megastructure, the insides of a Dyson sphere? It all makes sense and it's represented in a quite clear manner. Even the levels that don't feature much of the structure and instead have the ancient city or the cave, it all still makes sense that it would be there. It's what it was built upon, remains that only those with a higher credential can go to. All the encampments that were ravaged by war or famine, as we have seen in the game. It's so great I don't even know how to glaze this really. Maybe if I were to compare it to something else, to other climbing media maybe. Maybe that would work. You know, I think I'll do just that. Now, since this is a climbing game, all I could think of throughout the whole thing other than CSGO surfing was, well, climbing manga. I'm an avid reader, and I spend too much of my time reading, so, of course, in my head there were images constantly playing of Buntaro and how he wanted to climb the east face side of the K2. And that's where the delusion started. I thought I was him. I would reach the end with my own two hands, and I did. The climber honestly left such an impression on me that it became my go-to when it comes to anything climbing. Which brings us to the point of climbing media in general and how I feel about them. Almost all of them, I believe, try to sell a story of accomplishment and how they got there. If not, the story ends up being about the horror it was to climb said mountain or peak. What we never get in them usually is what happens after the end, or really, some kind of happy ending. Sure, Buntaro gets one, but others don't. For Lorn Lure, where we free solo all the way down to hell, we survive and then have to climb all the way back up, but we're alive. In hindsight, sure, we might have failed at our goal, but we are alive, and in the end, that is what is the most important thing, because it allows us to keep going forward. It allows us to do the same thing again. We can keep going. For the climber, Buntaro reaches the peak of K to East Face and survives. Not without consequences, but survives and has a future ahead of him. For the summit of the gods, Fukamachi learns after his encounter with death why people kept on doing these harsh climbs, and returns to challenge it himself. I think it's this sense of an antithesis that keeps bringing me back to all of this type of media. The constant risk of losing your life to achieve something, to finish the challenge, to reach the peak. That rush of adrenaline is what keeps me pushing to this media, I feel. And here is where I would say that I love climbing so much that after playing Lorn Lure I wanted to try climbing myself or something. But the thing is, I think I may be a bit too much of a wimp for something like that. I care too much about my life, so dying on a mountain and then being a museum piece isn't in my books. But I will continue to enjoy the media nonetheless. I love hiking, but I almost broke my leg during that, so yeah. To tie this all back to the game though, I feel like Lorn Lure achieves something that I haven't seen in any other climbing game really. And that is to tell a good story, hell, even a horror one as well, and combine it with good gameplay, challenges, and to top it all off, a lot of support from the developer. We recently got workshop support and map making tools, basically increasing the lifespan of the game to infinite. What is there not to like about it? It has the aesthetics, the gameplay, the story, albeit a bit of a classic Lovecraftian story, but I don't care, I like it either way. I honestly don't know what is there not to like about this game. To give out an end note in regard to all of this, I'm honestly in shock with how much I went off topic to talk about random climbing manga that only have, well, climbing in relation to all of it. It probably would have made more sense if I were to have talked about, I don't know, more Lovecraftian media, like maybe other games, but no. I like the manga too much, so I had to nerd over it. Kinda makes sense though, in a way. It's all about the literal climb, the reason for climbing and doing the said action than it is for anything else when it comes down to it. I can't gush enough about how this manga changed my perspective of climbing and how Lorn Lure added to it. The mentality behind it, the horror, and the adrenaline in this performance really. Anyway, I wish I had more things to talk about, but I literally cannot connect any more sentences or any more dots in my head, so yeah, end of video. God forbid I get any more serious stuff happening in my life. Yeah, that's it, and I don't know. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever the fuck people say these days, and thanks for watching.